Welcome to NAVA Podcast with Leah Cardenas and Stella Pashos.
Let's explore the true essence of NAVA.
NAVA embodies the concept of beauty in all its forms. It represents the inner radiance that each woman possesses and the unique qualities that make her truly remarkable.
Our mission is to share the stories of inspiring women who are making their mark in the areas of fashion, health, lifestyle, and family. Our aim is to curate meaningful conversations where the journeys and experiences of our guests can inspire you in your own life.
We started this podcast to create a space where everyone can feel beautiful, inspired, and empowered.
NAVA is not just a podcast, it's a celebration of the incredible women who have shaped our lives and the countless others who are yet to share their stories.
We can't wait for you to join us. Hey Stella, how are you?
Hi, how are we?
Good. It is the first week of school holidays. I'm very excited.
What's planned?
Nesting. I'm really excited to clean the house and set up the nursery and organise all the cupboards and things like that.
Yeah. I think we speak about this on a weekly basis.
No.
But are we the only ones that stress clean? Yesterday I had like a stressful day at work and I was like, I just need a 30-minute timer on.
Yeah.
And just do whatever you can. I took everything off the kitchen island, all appliances, anything that was on there, and just like scrubbed. Very satisfying.
I love it. I think it's a thing though. I think people clean their environments as a way of cleaning their mind.
Yeah. 100%. I actually would love for you, this is like a side topic, I was telling my girlfriend about that architectural theory that you told me, because I was like, I'm always like talking to Leah about decluttering.
Yeah. And
you were like, can you explain the horizontal theory?
Yes. One of my favourite architects, I can't even remember which one said it, was like, they hate horizontal surfaces because it means clutter.
Yes. So if we like think about this practically, it's like I had a side table. On the side table, I put like a marble tray. On the marble tray was like a candle and a vase. And it's like, this is not necessary.
It does look pretty. I think you can't go no horizontal surfaces.
Yeah. No, like you can't be like absolute about it, but it definitely creates clutter.
Yeah.
Like unnecessary.
Yeah. And I was reading the other day that our generation like is into minimalism because our parents' generation was into maximalism.
Yeah, 100% can relate. I just remember, this is like, you could go on and on about organisation. Sorry, this is the last thing. But growing up, I would be like 8 years old, reorganising my mum's pantry, like over and over.
Me too.
And then like I'd go to IKEA and get like the cute baskets, and then every time I go over, the first thing I do is open the cupboard to make sure that they're still there, and they are. So
good. Yeah. We could talk about our organisation for a long time.
However,
we will move on. So I am 33 weeks pregnant at the moment, so the countdown is on, which is exciting.
Beautiful.
And this season is all about motherhood, which is going to be great. We have some amazing guests lined up for our listeners. But the guest we're going to be talking about today is Tegan from the Bump Day Spa.
Super excited. She is an incredible woman, and it was such a joy chatting to her.
Yes.
I feel like they've accomplished so much with Bump Day Spa and Brillo, and I'm sure everyone will absolutely love this chat.
Yes, and she talks about her experience of having 3 kids in 13 months.
Wild.
So wild. So the first were through IVF, and then she naturally fell pregnant on her first mum night out. So ladies, be careful. It can happen. And one of my favourite takeaways from the episode was she talked about the pressure of being a super mum and how that shouldn't be the standard, because we can't have it all together all the time, and that doesn't mean you're a good or a bad mum. So I really liked what she was talking about that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we all do this. Like, we have this like obsession and ideation with like needing to do everything and being on top of everything, and I think it's good. It encourages a certain level of drive, but it can also like mean fatigue happens really quickly.
And too much pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've just come back from Sydney.
Yeah, we love a Sydney trip. So I'm heading back every 3 weeks at this stage, which is exciting. And I'm on the hunt. I think I mentioned this before. I'm on the hunt for like my favourite go-to hotel.
Yeah.
This time I stayed at Pier 1. It's right by the Harbour Bridge. I wanted to be inspired to like get out and run. And normally I stay at Crown, but it's like 1K further from the bridge. So I feel like I did get out. I went for a 5K run, getting prepped for City to Surf, which is again in Sydney. A beautiful run. They're expecting like 90,000 people.
Wow.
And I'm pretty excited. It's only 14 kilometres.
Only.
The last fun run I did was a half marathon in November last year, and that was 22 and a half. So 14 I feel like should be a breeze. But I've been warned, Heartbreak Hill is a heartbreaker.
Oh.
Yeah. But it was really nice to get out in Sydney. I love Sydney.
Beautiful. My grandparents used to live in Sydney, so we used to go all the time when we were younger, but I haven't been in a while. But I think that'd be a nice little trip.
What are you reading? Nothing at the moment for me.
Okay. I'm reading The First 40 Days, preparing for that postpartum period. And it's all about different rituals and things that different cultures do in that first 40-day period.
Yeah.
Just started. Really interesting. I think Western culture doesn't prioritise that time to heal and nurture the mum like other cultures do.
Yeah. Traditionally in our Greek culture we definitely do, well, like people try to do, it's different now, but the 40 days, so staying home, not really having visitors over, and just really using that time to recover. And we would kind of think it was only limited to Greek culture, but it's not. It's so far and wide.
Yeah, and a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
But just centred around the recovery of the mum and that connection with Bub, which is super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your go-to recommendation?
My recommendation for this week, the thing that saved me in Sydney was my Camilla and Mark trench coat.
Love it.
I feel like it's just really nice to have any type of trench coat. Mine's beige. Sometimes you go out and there's like 10 girls in beige trench coats. But the Camilla and Mark one I love. It just adds like a little bit of a lift to the outfit.
And you can dress it up or down.
Totally.
Definitely.
Activewear, throw it on, out the door.
Yeah. For me, it is oversized shirt like the Blanca one I'm wearing today.
Love it.
Covers the bump. It's effortless and easy.
Amazing. Well, let's get into it.
Today, we're delighted to have Tegan on the podcast. She's the co-founder of Bump Day Spa, a sanctuary specializing in pre- and postnatal pampering. She's also the co-owner of Brillo Beauty and host of The Glorious Mess on Mamma Mia podcast. Welcome, Tegan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited.
Well, I'm excited to chat. I love chatting all things wellness and motherhood. It's like, it's the one thing I won't shut up about. So
Awesome. We've got a lot to chat to you about today. We're going to start off with 90 seconds with Tegan, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready.
I am ready. I'm ready to go.
What's the most surprising thing about becoming a mother?
Probably I've got to be quick. We've only got 90 seconds. Probably the multitasking and how much you can do on little amounts of sleep, and without food, a bit like living off people's like crusts and stuff like that. So yeah, I think what you can do and what you can manage is very surprising. I never thought I would be able to do some of the stuff I've done, but yeah, only in motherhood, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. What's your favorite way to relax when you have a moment to yourself?
Oh, I love a foot massage. So like that's just my jam. Like if someone can touch my feet, usually I'll go, because then you can kind of also sit on your phone and like feel like you're doing work at the same time. So I'm a foot massage girl all the way.
Love it. I'm sensing a lot of like productivity coming from you.
Well, multitasking.
Yeah. Do more with less. What's your go-to family dinner?
Chicken schnitzel. I'm a terrible cook. So like my mother-in-law's Italian. So anything I do is whatever she's taught me, and I'm terrible at it. But yeah, that's my easy go-to.
How many nights a week are you having chicken schnitzel?
Oh, Well, I actually make bulk. And then it's like, when you find something your kids will actually eat. So I'll make so much, and then my kids will be like, I'm pretty sure we've had this 3 times this week. And I'm like,
You're like,
yeah,
"You'll
but you're
eat
eating it. Yeah.
What is the most challenging part of motherhood for you?
Oh, probably mum guilt. I think navigating that, like you'll struggle, you'll have challenges, you'll lose your shit, you then feel really bad about it. You can't wait to get away from your kids, and then as soon as you're away from them, you miss them and you feel bad about everything. So yes, mum guilt for sure.
And I love this question. What is the one thing you never leave the house without when you're with your kids?
Oh, see, I am the typical mum. Like, I'm the mum with 3 kids that never has anything. Like, when my kids were little, I'd be the one at the park where, like, I'm like, "Oh, can I borrow this or can I borrow that?" But the one thing I will have always used and will always continue to use and take everywhere with me is baby wipes. Like, they're just for everything, like, to clean the car, to clean fingers, to, wipe your face down, like, baby wipes.
Yeah, with kids or without kids, multi-purpose,
Yeah, even I
multitasking.
pack them for myself for sure.
I think I have 3 packets in the car.
Yeah, they're literally on every bench in my whole entire house. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that was 90 seconds. Thank
I
you
wanted to
so
ask
much.
one more.
Oh,
So
okay.
sorry.
Add one more.
I want to know what the best mum hack is that you've discovered.
Oh my gosh. Oh, the best mum hack. That's a good question. Look, I don't think this is much of a hack. Oh, I don't know. That's a really hard one. Is it bad that I can't even think of one?
It's probably something you do day to day that you're just like, it's autonomous now.
Yeah. Look, I've only just learned, like, now all my kids are at primary school. So I've found a big relief in preparing the night before. I never used to be much of a prep person, hence being the one at the park with no baby bag. But now I'm realizing that my mornings are much easier if I have everything ready to go from the night before. So look, if you've got little kids that are very slow and like herding cattle of a morning, then yeah, doing the night prep before makes your morning all the much easier.
That's definitely a mum hack. I have a 3-year-old and one on the way, and we have to
Oh, congratulations.
thank you. We have to pre-pick her outfits the night before,
Yes.
otherwise it'll be disaster in the
Does she
morning.
love to be involved in that process?
She picks it down to the
Yes.
color of her underwear. Yeah.
This is what will be great when she starts school, because they have a uniform and you're like, it takes all the guesswork and the process out of that whole part of the day. So you'll be relieved.
I can't wait. All right. So we shared a little bit of an intro of the things that you are doing at the moment, but can you share a little bit about yourself, Tegan?
Yeah, so I live in Sydney. I have 3 kids. I have twin girls, identical twin girls who are 6.5, and my son Banjo, who is 5.5. So, as I just mentioned, they've all just started school this year. So I'm in like this new phase of my life and rediscovering who I am and post children and just coming out of that mum fog that we all experience when we have little kids. So and yeah, I have 2 businesses. I have Bump Day Spa, which is a pregnancy day spa specializing in pre and postnatal pampering, which is located in Brisbane and Sydney. And then I have Brillo Beauty, which is a pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond premium body care range. So all the things you need while you're pregnant, after you're pregnant, and if you're just a person that likes nice body care, really.
That's amazing. So many different things. What started first, Bump Day Spa or Brillo?
So Bump, yeah. So we launched Bump Day Spa about 7 years ago. It was actually while I was doing IVF, which is how I got my twins. So while I was pregnant with the twins, we were launching that and opening that. And it really just came from a place where my business partner had just given birth when we opened. Like, I think back on that now and I'm like, I'm so sorry I made you do that. And then, yeah, and we just noticed, like, a lot of people in our, friend groups and stuff, like, there wasn't anything around where it just took the guesswork out of that, like especially in different stages of your pregnancy, you're not sure what you can do. Some places won't touch you in your first trimester, or they're like, because of they're worried that, or they don't know what they're doing, and there's certain techniques and training and qualifications. So yeah, for us, we really just found a gap for, and something that's not clinical, because I think, as you are pregnant, you literally just become a vessel for this baby, and getting this baby here nice and healthily and safe. And along that process, there's so much clinical poking, prodding, like it's just, you're the vessel. So we wanted to really focus on the mum, and nurturing her and pampering her, and making sure that she's in her best condition to grow this baby. So for us, the experience of Bump Day Spa was really important. So making sure that from the second she walks in, like, it's all about her until the second she leaves, and hopefully she can take those vibes with her once she goes. But yeah, just, every little bit, we do a bit of guided meditation at the beginning of each treatment. It's just all those little tiny sensory experience things that were really important for us, knowing that, in that time of pregnancy or postpartum, it's very hard to do self-care, because you're so focused on growing this baby.
That's so cool. It definitely is a experience that you don't understand until you go through it. And I like what you said about it feeling really clinical. It definitely does. All the different appointments, and then people constantly telling you what you can and can't do, which a lot of it is just their own opinion. It's not even backed up by anything. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people won't touch you in the first 13 weeks. If I myself have been dealing with hyperemesis this whole pregnancy.
Wow.
And in those first 13 weeks, you feel so awful. You want someone to give you a foot massage or relax, feel a little bit more like yourself.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can, like we Bump Day Spa, like all our staff are qualified to, provide treatments from day dot, even fertility, if you're working on fertility. So all the way through to, if it's, labor preparation, because if they're trained correctly and they know what they're doing, it's so beneficial. So while people are like, oh, in the first trimester, we don't want to touch you, that's like when it's like so beneficial for a mom, whether she's not feeling well or she's sick or her body's changing, and like you said, it's so, you don't actually appreciate how much you need it. Like, even for me, I very rarely go for a massage, which is bizarre, but on the odd occasion that I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not even pregnant, and like how that made me feel is just, you don't realize how essential it is and how good it makes you feel until you're really in there.
Yeah. And you just show up as a better person when you've had that time to have that self-care for yourself.
Absolutely.
It's nicer, you're receiving things in a different way.
Yeah.
Especially
and it's giving yourself permission to, like, and that's like part of our guided meditation at the beginning of each thing. Like, it doesn't go for too long. It's just honestly like 30 seconds of just giving our customers permission to just relax, enjoy, embrace, and just be present in, accepting self-care for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
On the topic of some of the misconceptions, were there any common ones that you encounter with prenatal and postnatal care? Apart from that, not touching the first trimester.
Yeah. Look, especially, and as you mentioned before, there's so many do's and don'ts, and there's so many varying, ideologies, or, what you can and can't do. It's changed over time, like the way our parents, when our mums were pregnant, it's a very different thing. So it can be really overwhelming, I think, for mums, especially first-time mums, because you want to do it right and you want to do the best thing, for your growing baby. But so there's so many do's and don'ts, and it can be really overwhelming, especially for a first-time mum. So like, for part of what we wanted to do with Bump and with Brillo is take the guesswork out of that for mums, so they know, as soon as they walk into Bump, any product we're using is absolutely fine. All our staff are qualified. The same with Brillo, like rather than, picking up a moisturizer or skincare or magnesium spray and go, oh, is this pregnancy safe? Like we've designed it for that. So, I think there's so much info. So I just think like considering what you can and can't do, but that's why going to people that specialize in the area, it makes it so much easier.
Definitely.
You spoke a little bit about having 2 businesses, 3 kids. Your eldest is 5.5, and I believe you have a 13-month age gap between the twins and your eldest,
Yes.
right? Yep.
Yeah. So the twins are 6.5, and then my son's 5.5. Yeah. So my twins were IVF, and then on my first like wild mum night out after having twins when they were 3.5 months old, I fell naturally. So yeah, I found out I was 6 weeks pregnant when the twins were 5 months old, and so he was born 4 days after their first birthday. So I just had like 3 blobs of humans, and it was a wild time.
I imagine this would come up a lot for people, once they've had their first baby and they're super fertile, and then this might happen again, and there's that panic of like, how are we going to do this? Did you have feelings?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I like went through a real process as well because, we tried to fall pregnant for about 2 years and then started the IVF process. And we were very lucky to fall first go with the IVF and then put one in and it split and we got twins. So we were very, very blessed. But yeah, I think the hardest part for me when we got our surprise was that I was just like a bit disappointed. Like I was like, this was not the plan. And my whole life, all I'd wanted to see was, well, not my whole life, but in my recent life, all I'd wanted to see was that positive pregnancy test. And then the one time in my life I did, I was like, oh my God, like what are we going to do? So I think my husband, I just remember, I'll never forget the day that I told him, and he was like, I was thinking, oh my God, he's going to die. And he's like, no, we're right. We've got this. And I'm like, okay, look,
okay, we got this.
So. If you think that, then sure, let's roll with that.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not sure even to this day if we had that, but if we got this, but every day is a different day.
Sounds like a whirlwind experience. How do you think that's shaped you as a mother?
Oh my gosh. Look, I must say it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, my husband and I have this conversation all the time because I'm actually quite hard on myself. I think as a mum, I don't think I live up to my own expectations of what I thought I would be as a mum. Obviously the situation was also not what I thought it would be as a mum, like having 3 kids so close together. So yeah, look, I find it hard, but it's a challenge. So I think the perseverance of it all is probably. I say if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So you've got to just kind of push through it, right?
I understand where your mum hack comes in now, like that need to just do
oh my
everything
gosh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think all mums wonder whether they do a good job. It's so hard, especially I think with social media. We're always portrayed this perfect picture that we're meant to a gentle parent and have all the nutritional snacks and all that kind of thing. But I think at the end of the day, if we love them and they have a nice, safe, warm home to come to, they're told that they're loved, we don't have to have it perfect all the time.
Yeah, I think we are our own worst critic. And I think that, my husband and I talk about this all the time. And I sometimes I'm like, I don't know why I'm bothered trying to explain this to you because you just won't get it because it's just a mum thing. Like it's from the second you give birth, you're going to feel it. You're always going to worry if you're doing enough, giving enough, showing up enough, like for your kids. That's just, I think, part of being a mum. Like you want to be the best mum you can be. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, I think, to do that. And because we want to, because we love them. And that's, we want the best for our kids. So it's not it's an important role. So I think we take it pretty seriously.
I want to go back to the 3. Well, it's not even 3 under 3. It was 3 under
It was nearly 3 in 1, 3 in 1, 3 in 1 year. Like I was 4 days off. I was like, come on, we could have just come a little bit earlier so we could have just snacked it all in that 1 year.
How did you would have had 3 cots, 3 nappies,
Oh,
lots of
yeah.
nappies
Like,
to do.
So the twins weren't even walking when I had Banjo. So like, and we lived in this terrible, it was a beautiful house at the time, but terrible access. So like to get in and out from my car was like 3 flights of stairs.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was, I like had 3 baby capsules. You know what I mean? It was, it was a whirlwind. It was really wild. I actually can't remember a lot of it, like a lot of the images that or videos that I see. And I must say to any mum, like, even though you think that you just all you do is take so many videos and so many photos, like it's never enough because, like in my instance, I come out of it and I don't remember any of it. So those videos and those photos are all I really have, you know?
Yeah. Being in the self-care space,
Yeah.
how did you recover from that period of your life? Because that would have been really challenging on your body,
Yeah.
and it was in such a short amount of time. How did you manage to prioritize self-care? Was Bump Day Spa in the works at that point?
Yeah. So, that was by the time I had my twins, that was open and in full flight. And to be honest, like work for me was kind of my escape. So it was like, I know we're not meant to classify work as me time for
Yeah.
mums, that's or grocery shopping is not, time out.
Yeah.
But it was for me because I really do enjoy it. Like I really like to work. I have a passion for the things that I do. So it is my happy place. So, even with Banjo, I used to take him in the little possum pouch and sit at the reception at the spa. And like I like to do that. So it kind of, there was no such thing as maternity leave, like when you're a business owner, like it just, the wheels have to keep turning. But it's lovely in the respect that obviously both my businesses have partners. So, when one's preoccupied, you can kind of take the reins for each other. But it was, I must say, I probably didn't, looking back, I probably am more aware now of my need for self-care and what fills my cup. But when you're in the thick of it, sometimes it's hard to even like thinking about it,
It's almost like another chore.
Yeah, exactly. I'll add it to my list of things to do to find time for something that I want to do,
So aside from foot massages and prep the night before, what does self-care look like for you?
That's a good question because I do know that like self-care looks so different for everyone. So it might be reading a book for someone or meditating or yoga, Pilates, whatever. For me, I love eating. So, even if it's just going out for a lunch or catching up with a girlfriend, like that, it really fills my cup. Like I love time with girlfriends and like a date night with my husband. That's very fulfilling for me. Other than a foot massage, I always go back to that. Also, what else? I love, like, I'm certainly not a fitness person, but I feel good after working out. Like, who doesn't feel good? So, I think there was a long period there where I didn't do anything, and I felt like even my mental health changed with that. Like, although you're not feeling physically strong, but not allocating and prioritizing that time to look after your physical health, I think is really important. And so that, to me, I've kind of implemented a bit more of a system and consistency with that.
Yeah, it's really powerful, I feel, is once you're in the slumps of not working out and then you start feeling down.
Oh, yeah.
And just like, it's too hard,
Yeah.
basket.
And it's the vicious cycle, like once you're in that mode, the last thing you actually feel like doing is exercising. But once you kickstart back into that rhythm, I think it's definitely very beneficial. And like I said, I can't even like run for more than the length of a song, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely not fit, but I just know that how good it makes me feel, just even to take that time for myself to do something towards my health.
Yeah
I've been prioritizing pregnancy reformer Pilates this
Good.
pregnancy.
Yes.
And booking them in advance because you can't cancel is like a
Mm,
commitment. And
yes.
that's really helped me get through, especially dealing with all the throwing up this time.
Oh, no.
I actually
Yeah.
think that that's such a good quality that you have to like book in advance. Like Leah was like to me before, I've booked every week until I'm due. And I was like, that's
Oh, good
amazing. Like
girl.
I don't do that. I don't have kids.
Yes. And that's the key, I reckon. I know for me, like I have a gym membership that I think I've used twice because it's up to me when I would go. Whereas
Yeah.
now, like I have 2 PT sessions and it's like,
You
yep,
have to
that
turn up.
shit,
You're
that's
committed.
I'm still paying. If I don't show up, I've still got to pay for them. So I'm kind of like, I never miss one, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like having that commitment and you never feel bad after doing it, you know, like there's some days where I'm like, oh my God, I could not be bothered, but you never regret doing something to make yourself feel better.
There you go. Life hack. Pre-book. You can't cancel.
Yeah. Stitch yourself up.
Yes, as much as you can.
What are some of the most popular services at Bump Day Spa?
Mm. Well, look, like we generally do, you know, like a pregnancy massage is, of course, our most popular service. Like everyone loves a beautiful rub from head to toe. But then, of course, we've got the spa packages, which will kind of combine, you know, some facials or a foot ritual. We've got like We've got a Brillo belly facial. So that's like, you know, focusing
Yeah.
on the bump. Like I was not a bump touchy person, so I'm not sure I would have loved that, but there's some women that absolutely love, you know, having that bump you know, massaged, and you know, sometimes the babies are always dancing inside and enjoying the rub too. um but yeah, generally it's kind of our most popular is a combination. So, you know, the bump list package, a 1 hour massage, a beautiful facial, and a bit of a foot ritual because, you know, the feet get a little bit sore and swollen as well, or they can do.
Oh, that comes from your little foot fetish.
My cankles when I was pregnant with the twins went absolutely viral. So there's nothing I spent many hours getting foot massages, especially when pregnant, because those like big chubby hooves, they needed it.
It's so bad as if you need that as well.
I
But
know. Had another
speaking
problem.
speaking of bump touching, that
Yes.
is so weird that people think because you're pregnant, they can
Mm.
come and touch your belly.
Yes. Or comment like
Oh,
even like, oh, you're so small, or you're so big, you know. I think even for our staff, you know, as women, and it's usually so kindly intended, you know, and
yeah.
they're just so happy for you and they love it, whatever. But yeah, like even for our staff, I'm like, we never comment, we never, you know, it's just if you need to say something, tell them they look beautiful, you know, like it's actually really hard to kind of stop yourself from being like, oh my God, you're all belly, or you know, you look so tiny, because in
Yeah.
my head I'd be like, oh, you look so great, but you know, to them they might have a complex, oh, my baby is growing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, less is more when it comes to pregnant people. We're too hormonal and sensitive at that time.
So what are some things, because I don't have kids, but I feel like when you see a pregnant woman and you're like, okay, what do we say? It's like, we've already congratulated you, you already look beautiful and you're glowing. Like what are some other things we can say?
I think it's great to ask questions,
Yeah.
you know, like yeah, or you know, like even keep it less about them and their body, or maybe like your dress is beautiful, like it looks beautiful on you, or
Yeah.
you know, but asking questions. I think, how are you feeling? You know, like yeah, like I think turning it around and giving them the space to talk about where they're at, or you know, having a vent if they're not feeling 100%, or letting them enjoy it if they're feeling great. It's actually, I think you learn a lot from like listening, obviously.
Yeah. And then you notice that mothers probably feel the need to comment on their own bump, because if you're not going to say it, then they're going to say it before you say it.
Exactly.
Right? So
You know,
let's
there might be,
move away
and
from that.
you can get a gauge of how women, like they're like, oh my God, I feel so huge. And you're like, oh, you look great. Like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
sure you feel that way, but you look beautiful.
Yeah.
And they always do. Like, that's the thing. Like, there's nothing, like, I believe there's nothing more beautiful than a big pregnant woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, I can relate. Like, you feel like absolute shit when you're pregnant. So, you know, your body's moving, you're aching or, you're tired. So there's so many more layers to it for that person. And, what it's all we see is this big, beautiful bump. That's lovely.
I'd love to get your views on how you perceive the landscape of pre and postnatal care in Australia. I've seen some things online and on TikTok about, like places like Japan, they have these crazy suites where women can go postnatal care and they just stay for the week. And where do you think we're at?
I know. You know what? I think we're pretty behind. Yeah, I was seeing this amazing thing. I think it was in Korea or China, and they like for 40 days they go to this like luxury resort, and they have all of those. They have assistance with the baby. They have like the postnatal Pilates and spas and like all this kind of stuff. And I think we're probably one of the countries that haven't nailed that yet. Like, I think in terms of services, we're getting there. Like, there's more specialized services for pre and postnatal. But in terms of the healthcare and, the follow up and, like I know I was sent home with twins and like my husband owns his own business too. So he was back at work and I'm kind of like,
cool.
What the fuck am I doing? Like, it was like me to myself. Like, I've just got to figure it out. So, I don't think like the mums groups cut it. Like, that you walk away with from the hospital, like, oh yeah, here you go. Here's a mums group. Like, you guys can all figure it out together. But yeah, in terms of like the actual, nurturing a new mom or we've got a bit of a way to go. But I think women are starting to understand the importance of that and kind of making sure they've got that village prepared and ready for them, whether that's their mom or a friend. And I think us as the village, I know when my girlfriend has a baby, I'll send over some food or, like a dinner ladies voucher or something like that. Like, we know the things that help. And especially if you've had kids yourself, what little things really make a difference during that time.
Yeah, and I think it comes because I've been reading The First 40 Days by, I forget her name, Hang Oh, I think it is.
Yeah.
Because this time I really want to focus on not the pressure to bounce back or clean the house on the first week or anything like that. Like, it's just not necessary. What's most important is to replenish and re-nourish my body and develop that connection with the baby, because we just don't live so close-knit as maybe other cultures do or what we previously used to do. So we don't get to see what the rawness of motherhood really is in those first couple weeks. And I like what you were saying about, once you have been a mum before, you need to become that village for someone else and pass that knowledge on. I don't think we do that enough.
And I don't think you truly know what you need until you've done it. Like, so it's not until, like I had kids that I'm like, oh, I felt really bad for all my friends that had babies that I hadn't done anything for, but obviously it's like, getting married. You don't know how to throw a wedding until you actually throw a wedding, right? Yeah. So for having a baby, now like those really important token things that can really assist a new mom. But that's so nice you're doing that. And like, we touched on our podcast that, statistics are that the highest time for a mother to experience postnatal depression is when their child is 4. So it's not in that immediate period after giving birth. It's around those 4 years after. And like, I feel like I really relate to that because, obviously my situation was quite a whirlwind in having 3 in a year. So it was like, I know I was absolutely just running off adrenaline for a solid 5 years. But it's almost like when all that dust settles and you're not just treading water every day, like, to make sure baby's okay, to make sure that, everyone's happy and alive and fed and all that kind of stuff. The dust kind of settles at 4 years old when it's, it's changing into a new period of your child's life. And that's kind of when mums go, oh my God, like that was a lot. Like that was a really trying period. Like I was sleep deprived for 4 years. I, put all my energy into the babies or my children, and then I'm still trying to maintain a relationship with my partner, and I needed to go back to work. There's so many cups that we're filling that 4 years later you're like, oh, hold on, I forgot about my own cup. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important now, and I love that women that are giving birth now are appreciating and knowing the importance of, that nourishment and support and nurturing of yourself, because like we said earlier, that's what makes you a better mom, and that's what makes you show up better anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's the changing conversation that's happening, going back to Stella's question of how the landscape is changing, is I feel like maybe previous generations, it was almost like a badge of honor that you were worn out, burnt out, you gave everything just to your kids and you've forgotten yourself or your partner or
Yeah.
your career and all those other things that still are important. I don't think,
Yeah.
yes, our babies are definitely so, so important, but there are other aspects to us. We're not just one-dimensional people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was almost glamorizing, you know, exhaustion, like, wasn't it? Like, oh, the more you're doing. And then I almost have this weird hatred for the term super mum, because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like it's almost does the opposite. Like, because I was like, oh, if I'm not doing it all, then I'm not a super mum. So I've got to do it all, because then that makes me a super mum. And like the best type of mum is a super mum, right? So, and I'd almost used to shudder. And I know that, again, that people would always mean that in the kindest way. Like, oh, you're working and you've got these 3 little kids. Like, you're such a super mum. But I was like, oh, but what if I wasn't coping that day? Like, what if
Yeah.
I couldn't get out of bed that morning? Or does that make me not a super mum? Like, I just think all mums that are just getting up every day and doing their best, like, that's a super mum to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Do you know what I was just thinking of? I was just thinking, I got thrown back 2 things. So one, I come from a Greek culture and I was like, we do the 40 days.
Yes.
But it was different again.
The Greeks do great. They're
Yeah.
similar to like my husband's Italian, and they're kind of similar, like it's like nurture, food, feed you,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like such good points that you guys are raising. So I'm going back to this about the village has changed. People are in their own homes where people are going back to work and all of those things. So
Yeah.
it's really good to be conscious of that. And then the second thing I was going to say was my mum always worked like 3 jobs, was always like the burnt out mum.
Yeah.
She always kept it together. She always had a meal for us. But I was like, you're so right in saying that it was glamorized to be that, how are you doing it all? And she like obviously loved it, because she was like, oh, look at me.
Yeah. And it almost gives you doesn't give you permission to not cope. Like, some days I'm like, oh, I've got to go show up at the school because, there's assembly, and then I've got to be here, but then I've got to do my own work, but then I've got to wash all the school uniform, like all the things, right? And it's almost like you're not given permission to just not cope. Like, and I've had days probably more recently than when my kids were babies, but I'm like, oh my God, like, this is so hard. This is, all the things are so hard. So can I just say that I am like, it's a lot. Like, it feels like a lot. And, I think that women need to have permission more to just say, this is really fucking hard.
Yeah, it is so hard. But I'm so grateful for my village. My mum and my mother-in-law live close, and they're really hands-on and helpful, and I definitely couldn't do it without them. And I know they both did it alone because their families weren't close. So I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, I
It
know.
must
I
have been
think that
hard.
all the time. My brother lives interstate, and like, actually, my mum and dad have flown up there now to look after their kids because they don't have anyone around. So it's like they need to book a babysitter and then fly them interstate to, have a minute. Like, and it's really hard. And I think about single mums a lot. Like, they honestly every day cross my mind, because especially at this stage and the cost of living, like, whew, it's a really tough time for parents in general. And that also adds the pressure of women having to get back to work after having babies, because, it's not like back in our parents' days where, a family of 4 can live off one income. That doesn't cut it anymore. So the pressure is on.
Yeah. Speaking of the pressure and new mothers, what are some things that you recommend to ease into postpartum recovery? Because we know it's not necessarily just the first couple weeks. It's postpartum is a couple years, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. I might, like, my kids, my youngest is 5.5, and I'm still like, oh, I'm postpartum. Oh, I still blame things on baby brain. That's like when I'm like, okay, no, or maybe I'm just forgetful. um, yeah, look, I just think also getting back into what you were doing prior. And obviously, I mean that, like, obviously, not like, oh, bounce back.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean at all. But if you were like, enjoyed training, or you liked eating certain foods, I always say to people, like, the world still exists once you have your baby, like, even when people are organizing what they need for baby, I'm like, shops are still open once the baby arrives. So, it's, everything is still there. You still have access to all those things you want and need and love. So the consistency of getting out there and finding your people, and it might be another mum who's had a baby around the same time, or maybe someone a bit prior who can, help out and give advice, and, you can chat to. I just think finding what I feel like a lot of the days go very quickly, and you're like, all I'm doing is just giving and giving and giving. Like, so finding something that you can receive for yourself is very nice. It always comes back to filling your own cup, even if it's just a little bit, it makes such a difference.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. I don't think you realize how much you can give as a person until you experience those first couple weeks of a new baby.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know. And especially your first one, because you're like, what am I doing? Like, there is no manual for this. Like, I don't understand how there is not.
And it's not actually instinctual either. Like,
No.
a lot of people just assume breastfeeding is natural. Yes, it's natural, but that doesn't mean you know how to do it.
Oh my gosh, I was terrible at that too. Yeah. It's a wild ride, and it's just all guesswork, because this baby, you're like, I don't know what that cry is for. Are you hungry? Are you tired? Like, I don't know. It's like 3 years of guessing. And then once you're after the 3 years, then it's just 3 years of negotiating, like compromising.
Next phase.
So yeah, that's it. New age, new challenge.
So amongst it all, the businesses, the kids, you've also got a podcast, Glorious Mess. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's a Mamma Mia podcast that I've done since Bandra was about 6 months, so probably for about 5 years now. And that's awesome. So that existed before I hosted, with Holly Wainwright and Andrew Daddo, whose kids are now adults, which is funny because that was around for so long. And then Lee Campbell and I took over that when we had little kids. And then we've had a few different hosts along the way, but it's great. Like, it's the format's changed a little bit along the way, but essentially it's us just having no idea what we're doing and finding out from people who have those answers, like what the answers are. So depending on what topic we're covering each episode, it does change, but yeah, it's awesome. It's been very helpful for me. Like, every episode, I'm like, oh, good, I'm going to take that home and utilize that. So
that's us too.
Yeah, it's great.
You have a favorite episode that you would recommend people to start?
Probably Maggie Dent. Maggie Dent is just amazing. Like, and I think we did one on toddler tantrums with Maggie Dent. So she's just the best. Like, she's like the mum or the nan that you wish was yours. Do you know what I mean? The way she speaks to you, she's so nurturing. The way she encourages you as a parent, and just makes sense of what happens. Like, she's a real pro at understanding the neurology behind boys and girls and different age groups, and the way she describes like what's happening in their little brains, and that makes you kind of understand what you're dealing with. So yeah, she was really great, and she's one of my favorite guests. And also Lael Stone, she has some really great advice. Yeah.
And last question before we move on to our NAVA acronym. What advice would you give to expectant mothers who are navigating the journey of pregnancy and preparing for motherhood? What's your one piece of advice?
conversations with your partner, if you have a partner, I think, like, I know my experience and a lot of my friends' experiences has been like, it's you don't think to have the conversations. Like, you only know the way you parent because of how you were raised. And I think the things that you will come up against, or in your relationship when parenting, it would be really useful to try and maybe have a few conversations before getting to that point. So, like, oh, how, if this were to happen, how would you see that playing out or whatnot? And I just think lowering your expectations of yourself can be really helpful, and in a relationship, of each other as well, because I think, especially those first few years, you come out of this love bubble. A lot of us have just gotten married and been on beautiful holidays, and you're like, and now we have a baby. And then you're like, wow, this is a shit show. So I think be kind, be gentle to each other, to yourself. And communication, even like neither of you have to have the answers, and it's about trying to figure it out together, like becoming a team. I think that is something you don't think about before having a baby, and you just kind of figure that out when you're in it. But yeah, if you can go into it with a little bit of prep and communication, I think that would make it a lot smoother.
Such good advice, wholesome advice.
I think communication's good even for marriage, any sort of relationship. Having that open dialogue is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to jump into our NAVA segment of the podcast, where we can give the listeners some practical takeaways from today.
Beautiful.
We're going to start with N for navigate. Can you share a time when you had to readjust your goals due to the demands of motherhood, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, like I think last year for me was a bit of a tricky year because I had the twins in primary school and Banjo still in a daycare, and it was where we used to live because we'd moved house. So I was like, I'm doing this new kindy day, and school days are very short, and then having to travel 40 minutes to do a daycare drop off, and then having my tiny window of work, which had also doubled because that was the year we launched Brillo. You know what I mean? So it's definitely about just navigating is the word, exactly. Just trying to time manage and prioritize, and just having to sort of find your windows. If it means waking up early one morning to try and get some work done because you've lost a few hours in the day, then it's forever shifting and changing with kids. So you have to adapt and evolve.
A is for aspire. What advice would you give to mothers who are hesitant to pursue their dreams due to the responsibilities of parenting?
I think it all comes down to like your support network, and having, doing your due diligence in research, and knowing what it is that you want to do, and educating yourself. But surrounding yourself with people who will back you, and like my husband's very supportive of the things that I want to do, and I think it would make it very challenging if he wasn't. So it's that balance of yourself, like the work that you have to put in yourself, but then surrounding yourself with the network to help as well.
The next one is V for value. How do you teach your children the importance of self-worth?
That is a really good one. I am a big affirmation person, without sounding cheesy, but there is power in words, like especially with kids. Like I tell my kids every day, like don't get me wrong, I also tell them they're driving me crazy as well. But like I tell them all the time, like their amazing qualities, and what it is that they're doing great, and what it is that I love about them, or when something made me really proud. I think that like little kids, they might not even look like they're listening, but they do. They soak it in and they love that. And I know as a kid, I loved that. Like that's what you do it for. You like your parents' validation, and I think it's really special if you can plant that in your kids from a young age.
That's so true. They listen to everything.
Yeah. the swear words, the affirmations, everything.
Last one is A for achieve. As a mother and business owner, what actions have you taken to achieve your goals as both mother and in your career?
I think I've really worked to achieve balance. And like I said before, it's always changing and it's, forever evolving. But I do really put a lot of effort into that. And like, I'm not saying that I nail it either. Like, I'm probably still got a way to go. But yeah, I work towards achieving balance so that, one's not overriding the other. I'm still at capacity for everything, like I'm still giving my kids what they need and showing up for them, but I'm still delivering what I need to deliver for my business and for my work and for my like the people I work with. So just trying to find that balance and achieve a little bit of homeostasis.
I like what you said. It's forever changing, forever evolving. We don't have to feel like it's rigid, has to be one way. We adjust as things take place.
Yeah, and I've always said don't jinx yourself because once you nail it, it'll all turn to shit anyway. So like you can never be like, oh, I finally figured it out. It's great now because no.
And then someone's teething.
Yeah. That's it. And then one, you've got one potty training or one doing this and that. So yeah, it's just never get too cocky. It's always evolving,
Ground yourself,
always
exactly.
changing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful speaking with you today. I've learnt a lot personally, and I know a lot of others will as well. But yeah, it was such a delight, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
And remember, you can always find more episodes and updates on our website and social media page. You can find us on Instagram at NAVA.podcast. Until next time,
keep chasing your dreams and making your mark on the world.